Hey CC community, and welcome to Cycle 2, Week 5, Visual Fine Arts. And this week we're going to be doing the Eiffel Tower, which is being pulled from our geography because one of the European cities we are looking at is Rome. Paris. We are looking at Rome. London, Paris, Rome, Barcelona, and Orleans. We're pulling this from Paris, drawing the famous iconic Eiffel Tower. Now, this is definitely more of an upper level. If you'd like to have something that's for a lower age, then check out last year's post of perspective, which is a aerial perspective of koi fish. To start out with perspective, I would recommend pulling out some books, probably just from your shelves, and just showing the kids everyday things that they've probably been looking at and maybe haven't noticed. So here we have just linear perspective, how we have this road getting smaller in the background. We know that this cow is much bigger than the barn, but to the cow to look like it's closer to us, and he is larger and further down on the paper than this barn is. And here's an example of like an aerial perspective where we're looking down and we're seeing in the back of the dump truck and seeing more on top of the animals. And so there's throughout different children's books, you're going to be able to show them examples and just draw their eye to things that they're seeing every day. All right, Piggy and Gerald, usually just kind of front and center. On this one, they're running away. And so the artist has made them smaller because he wants them to look like they're going off into the distance, and they're positioned at the top of the page. And then here we have Ferdinand. This one is a really up close of this bumblebee, but we know this bumblebee is much smaller than this house, but they've got the house way in the background and smaller and up on the horizon line. And so he appears, we can tell this is the perspective of up close and personal right before Ferdinand has a little seat. Let's see. And then again, just flipping through and looking at different perspectives. Here we have them leaving the stadium, and we know that this farmer and the bull is much smaller than the stadium, but they are closer to us, even though they're like the same size drawn on the paper. It's giving us, or showing our eye the perspective that this is closer to us. So that's one way just to kind of talk about perspective with them and just show them different things that they already have around them. Okay, so let's get started. So this I did in watercolor, but I'm just going to show you with pencil. You can use a black pen or the trusty Sharpie. I'm going to use a little, literally little blue chalk. You could use crayons, oil pastels, whatever supplies you have. This, I may do a video later and kind of walk through how I did the watercolor, but we're going to be doing the same work, the lines underneath, and just doing a different medium on top. Okay, so starting with, I just have regular printer paper here. We've got our trusty hand as our ruler. And for this week, because we're doing perspective and we're going to need to be doing some overlapping here with these trees on the Eiffel Tower, I am not going to be starting with my Sharpie or pen this week. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to have our paper nice and tall. We're going to put our hand down and we're going to put a dot here. And this is going to be our horizon line, which is separating our ground from our sky. And now I'm just going to go left to right. Remember, the ground is not perfectly flat, so if theirs has some movement to it, then it is okay. So I'm going to go left to right, or right to left, depending if you're left or right-handed. Okay, now we're going to, in the middle of our paper, which is maybe about where you did that line, we're going to put 3 fingers down, and we're going to put a dot on each side. Then we're going to take a finger on either side of those dots and do another dot. We're getting the base of our Eiffel Tower. And then there's a few steps to this, so I have a reference over to the side, so if I'm looking over there. Okay, then number 3. Okay, where did number 3 go? 1, 2, okay, 3. All right, now we're gonna put 3 fingers down, and this is our middle. We're gonna go 3 fingers, and we're gonna do a dot here. And then we're gonna do 2 fingers on top of that and do a dot there, okay? So now we're going to draw a line here on this dot that's kind of hanging in the middle. And we're gonna make it the same length as these 2 dots, not these exterior ones, but these that are coming right up. And we're gonna draw those there. So if you wanna put little guidelines, then you can do that, okay? So now we're gonna just draw a straight line across there, like so, okay? And then while we are here, we're going to make this into a rectangle going across like that. Okay, so now we can see this distance between here and here. We're going to make this arch at the bottom of the tower, and that's where we're connecting these 2 dots that we lined up here. We don't want the arch to go all the way up, but we don't want it sitting on the ground as well. So we're going to arch that. And now we're going to connect this rectangle in a swooping motion down to these exterior lines that are here. And I would recommend them having a light hand. I'm kind of trying to draw a little bit darker so that you can see, you know, with my high-tech studio here. Okay, and now we're going, okay, so we've done the outside. Now we're gonna come up here and we're going to draw another straight line, but we're not gonna go all the way to the outside. We're gonna step it in just a little bit and draw a line here. So I'm gonna go in, I keep having this, there we go, fuzzy thing. All right, and line straight across. All right, and now let's do the same thing, and we're going to do a really skinny rectangle. Now we're gonna connect this rectangle down, and we're going to step it in just a little bit. We're not gonna go all the way to the corner. If they happen to do that, that's okay. All right, and now we're going to, while we're in this shape here, we're going to draw a rectangle in here. So we're gonna come down a little bit. We're gonna do a little line, and it's not gonna be straight down. We're gonna follow this curve as well. So curve and curve, like so. So we're just working on getting this outside structure. We're not adding any of the detail. I'm not gonna do that until I get my pen. Okay, so now we're ready to draw the top of the Eiffel Tower, and we're gonna make sure that we leave, oh, y'all can see my cheat sheet there, that we leave a little bit of room here at the top. So you can just, I'm gonna buzz right up from the middle, making sure that I leave maybe about a finger space. And we're just gonna be drawing a series of rectangles in different formats. So I'm gonna do a really tall, skinny one. And now I'm gonna do a little bit fatter one underneath. And this is, if it gets in a different, it's okay. This is just the impression, right, of the Eiffel Tower. This is not an exact replica. Now I'm gonna do a longer one, or a horizontal one, I'd say. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I did like 2 skinny ones, and then I did like 2 horizontal fatter ones. So now I'm gonna let this bottom one right here, this is gonna be what I'm gonna draw down to the bottom. And again, I'm just kind of stepping it in just a little bit. So you know, I'm like, all right, just whatever form of measurement they want to use. My fingers are too big to do this measurement. And then we're just gonna swoop it down. So from here, swooping it down, swooping it down. And then there's this small little triangle here. So I'm gonna just pick a point and I'm going to bring that down. And again, not in a straight line, but with a little bit of movement, down and down. Okay, so here's the basis for our Eiffel Tower, and we're just gonna leave that right now. And you know, you're like, this actually doesn't look like anything special. It looks like I did some, you know, the letter A with some extra holes in it. But we're gonna start adding the details later and it will all come together. So right now, to create that perspective, we're gonna put the trees on here. And this is where it will really help draw our eye into it to show this beautiful lawn leading up to the Eiffel Tower. So these first trees I have are actually overlapping the Eiffel Tower. So we're going to draw the tree. Here's the horizon line here. We can put maybe just a little bit of a straight line there for the trunk. And then we're going to draw real loosely. You're like, there's my tree. And we're gonna do the same thing to the other side, about the same height. So if you look, it comes about to this arch, and no two trees are alike, so they don't need to look alike. Now, we've got this second opening that we did here. So here's our first, here's our second. Our next tree that we're gonna draw is gonna be this tall. So here's how we're gonna get the angle on that one. We're gonna take our hands, and here we are at our tree that we just drew, we're gonna take our hand and we're gonna turn it, and we're gonna have our finger touching that tree into the corner of our paper, okay? And then we can put one, maybe like 2 dots, okay? 1, 2. All right, and now we can do the same thing to the other side. Now when you change your hand, that may be hard for some, so maybe you borrow somebody's hand. Take your hand, you're touching your tree where you just drew, and you're gonna swing it out to the corner of that paper and then just draw some dots. Now this may not be exactly where you put your trunks to your tree, but this is just an idea to get that perspective, because that's where our trees need to be sitting. So we're gonna start with drawing the upper part of the tree, and this is where it's gonna feel, it seems like weird to draw it this big, but it's like it all works together. So we're gonna come to the second opening over here to the edge. We're gonna have our tree actually going off of the paper. We're gonna have it coming down below the horizon line because we are standing really close to this tree. So we've got this tree, top of the second opening, coming down maybe about a finger underneath the horizon line, like so. And then we've got our trunk, like that. And then I did 4 here. I think you should just do 3. There's not necessarily enough space, and it looks better in odds anyway. So then our second tree is going to be in between these two. So I'm gonna come, if this is where the height of these 2 trees are, then I can just come in the middle and draw my other tree, and maybe this one's kind of sitting right on the horizon line for the bottom of it, and then I can draw my trunk like that. And then we repeat the same thing to the other side. So coming to that second opening and coming 1 finger down. You can put a dot there if you want. Drawing my trunk down close to where I did these points. And then the same thing, kind of coming to the middle of that. And drawing that like right on the horizon line with the trunk. Okay, now we're gonna do a little bit of cleanup with an eraser. You wanna make sure that it's a clean eraser. Sometimes they can get dried out or you know, some stuff on. So make sure it's a clean eraser. You can, if you've got carpet in the room, one way to clean it is just to rub the eraser on the carpet. So the lines that we want to erase are going to be like if you've got these dots. See, that one's not very clean. Let's see. If you've got the dots on the lawn here, you can erase those. Then if you've got these lines going through your trees, the horizon line, we want to erase those. Skip anything that's inside those trees. I'm going to erase this line that's on the Eiffel Tower. It's still there, it's just hiding behind the tree. Okay, so here we have our next step of the Eiffel Tower. So now we can do, come back in with our black, either pen or Sharpie, and we'll add in the detail of the Eiffel Tower, and then we'll do the color. So I would just have them go over their pencil lines. So let's just pretend like you went through all your pencil lines like so. Then to add those structural things to kind of give it the pizzazz, on these top two, I left those blank. On the fatter ones, I just put lines coming straight down. Because we've got the tower where you can go and observe up here, so we want to make sure the people are safe. Then I did a line going straight down here, connecting that. And I just did, when I looked at it and tried to simplify it, I just saw these X's with these circles in the middle. So you can just do X. And then when it got down to this point, then they were these X's over here by themselves. And then in between that, I just imagine these huge cables anchored by these, I don't know if you call them bolts or whatever, but like so. And then here, some more straight lines just going down. And then we have another straight line, and then X, X, dot, dot, line, X, X. And some of my lines here and here, you can see, don't actually go all the way to the edge. It's okay, it doesn't have to be precise. On this other rectangle that's here, same thing, I just did lines all the way across. I did add an extra line here, just, I guess, visually for strength, and I saw that in the drawing. Now, to help give the illusion that this is also going, that has some depth to it, when we go over this line here, then just mimic that same, well, this is how we need to do it. Oh, and when they're drawing it, make sure they jump over their trees and don't go on their trees. And it will probably happen that somebody goes through the trees, and that's okay. Maybe they just trimmed that tree so you can see through it. All right, we're gonna do, remember how our fingers, we swung them this way to make this line? We're gonna do a little tiny baby line going that same way, and then this line goes back this way, like this. And now with these two little tiny lines here, we're going to connect it with this arch, like so. Okay, and then we're going to draw some lines here, and I'm curving them down. It's okay if theirs goes straight across. We could, keep adding shadows all the way up, but this was just the place I was like, we'll just add a little shadow right there. Okay, so then at this point, they could probably, can I outline the trees? Can I do the bark? Can I do the horizon line? You could, but you're going to get close on time because this is more detailed, but hopefully if you've been doing this style, then they've kind of gotten the hang of it as the weeks go on. I would probably just stop here and get to the adding the color part. But again, you figure out how the pace of your class works. So you can take this chalk, lightly go around your Eiffel Tower, hitting in these spots. And then you can kind of smooth in between. I just like bringing in other mediums because it just gives it more depth when it's not always, you know, you've got your marker, you've got the chalk, and then you can add in if you want to do crayons, but you use what you have, okay? And then my favorite, oil pastels, and then you can color in there. I've just been on a watercolor kick lately, so my example today that I tried this step by step with a few of my boys, and I did watercolor. Okay, remember you can just fast forward this because I don't have the high-tech equipment or knowledge. There's probably an app for that to speed this up and all that good stuff, but and you can add in a little black if you want to darken some of this, and then you can add in the green. So you could do, that one's a little dirty, but let's see. To add the grass, you could do more of a rubbing. I mean, and watercolors would be great on this. But again, you've got to pace yourself for time and, you know, encourage them, hey, you are welcome. Now you know how to do this. You can go and do this at home. All right, grass is done. Put those trees in. And then let's put the leaves on our trees. I wanted a darker color. Where is it? Is that it? No, that's the same one. And I like to mix those greens. You know, the oil pastels typically mix really well together. And there's nothing wrong with outlining the trees with a marker. Again, it's probably just more of a time thing, I feel like. And then also getting your focus on the Eiffel Tower, and then these just kind of are a nice little accent to your Eiffel Tower and not drawing so much attention with the marker as well. And if you have students that get done quickly, you know, you're like, all right, make sure your trees have at least 2 colors of green. Okay, make sure you don't see any white showing on that. It's okay for your grass, you know, because if we're doing the rubbing, I mean, and that's the thing without watercolors and teaching them that skill too, to be able to leave that white space, and it actually helps just strengthen your work. And then don't forget to sign your work. So there is the Eiffel Tower for week 5. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and we'll be wrapping it all up next week with our final project and pulling all of these elements together that we've been working on. Have a great one.